group that's been together for many years in Central Florida. And at that point, we'll actually continue on down the panel, and you'll kind of get a sense of how all these different personalities, these wonderful different talents, touch every piece of this product that you saw in the other room over there. And it's not all just one style. It's not all one personality. It's all not one skill set. This is an unbelievable group of collaboration, of talent, artistry, and skill that brings all this stuff to life. And as you can see, it's a mix of people too. And the fun part of a fun little story, because you're going to hear lots of stories, is that when we sat down tonight, I was able to ask all of them, if we were to get a short to represent our department, what color would you choose? Can you see? Nobody picked the same color. We got a few maybe similar or something like that. So that right off the top tells you the diverse group of what they find that inspires them that they get excited about. So that's kind of the beginnings of where this all started. And a thank you for us to be able to have some people do it. But the thing that's come in part of my experience with the design itself, I've actually been the art director or the design director for Universal Studios for 15 years. Professionally been working in the art industry community for close to 26, 27 years. Moved to Orlando in 1990. Came down here to follow my dream with the movie industry. And got inspired by a lot of work that was happening here. Since then now, 22 years later, I've been able to make a career out of it. And be fascinated and excited every day I get up and come to work. But the process starts always the same. It doesn't matter who these individuals start the process, what they're asked to do, a picture, a portrait, create a project, a prop, a character, a piece of sculpture. They all start the same way. That's probably the most fascinating when we sat down with the History Center. It's interesting because the story that you see across the way here has the same steps. It doesn't matter who starts the process, who ends the process, how many different people touch it along the way. It goes through, and we broke it down into 10 simple steps to talk to our audience, what it takes to create a piece of imagination, a piece of something that pops out of your mind, a word that comes to you, maybe you have feeling, and make it reality. Make it come to life, make it interact with your audience, make it have fun, make it play with you, make it scare you, make it give you a cheerful moment, a sense of sadness. But it all starts the same way. It starts with that first image. What is that ideal? What is that one thing you want to create? What is that inspiration you want to provide? It starts with the written word sometimes. It starts with a writer. It starts with somebody who conceptualized that. The person who on our panel who does that is Rick Spencer. In fact, we're going to ask Rick to say a little bit about who he is, what he's done.
Thank you, TJ. I've been a resident down here for about 17 years, 16, 17, or 18, back and forth to New York, where I had an office for many years. I'm a novelist. My stuff is published around the world in various languages, and I come out of the TV and movie business. My job is to capture and help inspire some of the ideas that these folks come up with, and then put them into words, the words into paragraphs, and paragraphs into pages. And from that, these folks, I find inspiration and at the same time start creating amazing art that actually improves the writing. So that's really my story.
Rick has created many shows, many experiences with Halloween, some of those holiday shows. Works mostly focused to now with special events and corporate events. So some of the big clients, they might come in on Microsoft or something like that. They bring their suggestions and ideas to him, and he has to sit down and conceptualize what that might be and what we can create, and then works with the team here to help make that happen. The next step that you come into, once you start with that word, you actually start to put what I call visual pictures to those words. What does it now start? David, talk a little bit about himself, where he came from, how many years you've been in Central Florida.
Hi, I'm David, and first I gotta say I'm staring out here, and it's all teachers. First, that's intimidating. And I just want you to take a look at everybody here and just realize we were all the weird kids in high school. So when you go back to classes and you see that weird kid, know there's hope. Just take a second, look at them and know that. I've been in Central Florida since 1987. I started with Disney. I went freelance for about 10 years, did a little bit of television, worked on Mickey Mouse Club, and then started with Universal back in '95. And for about the last 10 years, kind of been working exclusively with Halloween Horror Nights, designing the mazes and doing that. What's turned into pretty much a year-round job. How much do you want me to talk about what we do?
Well, I think we'll step and go over here because we're going to come back and get into questions about the product and stuff later.
Hi, I'm Kim Grohl, and I've been with Universal 13 years. I came down here 15 years ago, freelance with Disney and some of the other parks around town. Before that, I was up in near Philadelphia, and I was an illustrator up there. And I did anything that would pay the rent. I did magazine covers, game covers. I did over 600 postage stamps for foreign countries. I came down here as a painter. Didn't know about the 3D world, about designing something and turning it into something that you actually build and stand up. And where David comes from a theater background, I came from a 2D background. But found that I had a certain ability to figure that out, to take 2D and design it and create a 3D environment. So, and actually I start with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. And you did mention that. If you go through our exhibit there, you'll see a lot of doodles. That's what we start with. All of us. People think in this day and age it's all about computers and everybody sits there as a computer programmer and figure it out. But I think all of us start with a blank piece of paper and a pencil. And that's how our drawings start. I like to paint, so once I get started on my drawings, somewhat in painting structure, it's on both sides. We take it from there. And eventually we'll get into computer stuff, but I think that's every one of us starts with a pencil.
Hi, I'm Mary Nessler. I came to Central Florida in 1972. I started with Disney in '82. I was with them for almost 15 years. Thought that I would never work for a theme park after that. And about a year later, I started my teaching. I started off with their Christmas, which was a very small program at the time, and we were able to grow it, and it was really exciting. And saw the guys working on Halloween, and I thought, that's so cool, but where are the women? And so I watched, and I watched, and I worked, and got the opportunity a few years ago to start with Halloween and discovered my dark side. And have been doing Halloween streets ever since. I tell people that I'm the Christo of Universal. I get to take an already exciting environment and for 28 days make it my own. And when you have 500,000 people viewing your work in those 28 days, it's a real eye-opening experience, and it's enough to make you immediately think, what can I do next year that's even more exciting? So the opportunities are wonderful. I started off as a fine artist, and I find that works well for me in